Hello and welcome in to another episode of Between the Hedges. Thank y'all for joining us tonight. Welcome. And how's it going with everybody's Friday night?
It's all good down here. Ready for another good
Oh,
game tomorrow.
all good here. Just happy to be off work and finally enjoy this weekend for once. Actually, yeah, I'm actually going to be able to go to the game this weekend. So,
What?
Whoop,
yeah,
whoop.
What?
got offered some tickets with some friends, so I'm going.
Look at you homie.
Well, so I get to see Georgia absolutely obliterate Mississippi State.
That's what we're talking about. That's what we want, right?
100%.
Well, let's get into that. Is that how you see it going tomorrow? What do you think?
Mississippi State is the new Vandy. You heard it here first. So
Yeah,
it's just
Mississippi
gonna be
State is
another cakewalk.
well, I don't know about cakewalk because they're still an SEC team, but they're they're struggling, unfortunately ever since the Mike Leach passed away, that program's been in, a little bit of a disarray and they're trying to get their legs back underneath them. Rightfully so. They hired a guy last year, what, Zach Arnett or something that didn't pan out. He was their defensive coordinator previous, and he just didn't pan out. So they got a coach now that I think he's going to be able to get them back on track. But I think it's fair to say that this season's probably not going to go as well as they would like it to be honest.
No,
So
they're
yeah, I mean, I just think every which way the matchup leans, the advantage definitely falls in to Georgia's favor.
yeah,
Um, I
especially
don't see
with
anywhere
them.
really that Mississippi State would have an advantage over the Georgia team right now.
Supposedly they're supposed to be starting a true freshman at quarterback too, so that doesn't typically bode well against Nick Saban, Kirby Smart defenses. Typically eat
Yeah,
those
and
guys up.
but I read too that this guy, I'm drawing a blank recalling his name, but he's not your typical true freshman. He's 20 years old already. So he's like the opposite of Mr. 17-year-old wonder from Alabama that we hear nonstop about because he's only 17 and a true freshman. This guy,
Mhm.
their quarterback's 20 and a true freshman. So
Yeah, that is unique. So I guess maybe the learning curve might be a little less for him, but still, like Matthew said, I think when we look up at the end of the year, I think Mississippi State will be in the cellar in the SEC, and that's, it's a very deep, tough conference now. So there's no real shame in that. It's just they're gonna have a rough season until they can get their recruiting rolling and turn things around. The biggest thing I want to see, and I hope you get to see Matthew tomorrow, that I didn't get to see last week, was some consistency on offense.
From us.
Uh, yeah, I'm still waiting for that, and I think a lot of us are.
well, at
So
some point, I mean, this is what our sixth game, right?
halfway point.
So at some point, you basically just gotta call a spade a spade. Now there's still half a season for them to improve and get better and better, but um, it may end up being that this is just who we are this season, you know,
And
and it may
With
not
how
be as easy as what we've grown accustomed to seeing, you know, um, the Georgia offense being so efficient. We're nowhere near as efficient as we've been the last 2 seasons. And that's because we don't have two human cheat codes, one major one in Brock Bowers and another one in that he did not get the due that he deserved while he was here with Lad McConkey. I mean, having those two guys
Freaking lad McConkey.
on the field at the same time, those were matchup nightmares for defenses. And they could always get open and make unbelievable plays and kept us moving the ball and moving the chains and at an unreal rate. And now we're seeing the flip side of that this season. And it's taken a while for us to, I don't know that we still have adjusted fully to not having those two guys on the field. We don't have a choice, but we've had some growing pains. Um, you know, Trying to get used to not having them. And um, it doesn't help that one of our starting wide receivers is going to be suspended this game. So, you know,
Mm.
uh, that's going to, it just opens up the opportunity for somebody else to step up. And that's the way we've always looked at it. And that's the way we need to look at it. We're not Alabama where we're going to complain and gripe and cry, act like a bunch of crybabies because our offensive wide receivers get hurt or injured or suspended or whatever and say, well, we would have won. No, you go out there and the next guy up makes plays and you win the game even without your injured players or your suspended players in this case.
That's
So,
true. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think we're probably very close to saying, okay, well, the offense isn't going to be as elite as it has been, so it's time to find ways to just keep winning games, which we are. We just about pulled one out against Alabama, and we've found ways to win every other game of the season. So,
but even when you look at that game against Alabama, from the midway of the second quarter on through almost the end of that game, we saw what our offense is capable of doing.
mhm.
I mean, it's still good enough to be championship caliber. Like you said just a minute ago, though, we just need to see that more consistently. If we play offense like that and with our defense, now granted, neither one are as good as what we've been spoiled, and we are spoiled, let's be honest. Anytime you go 49-2 over the course of several seasons back to back like that, and you out of 49 games, you've beaten everybody that is not named Alabama that you've played. You get spoiled. So we are spoiled. We expect a certain standard, certain level, and we feel like that hasn't happened this season to that level. And that's right, it hasn't. But those guys are working hard to get to that. And I guarantee Kirby's trying to get them to that point. You think he's resting on what he's already done?
No,
Yeah.
So we'll get there. Whatever the best that this team can do this season, we will be that. I don't have any doubt. Now, whether that ends in a national championship at the end of the season or a playoff appearance and you make the final four or you may make the championship game and lose. Who knows what the outcome is going to be? But whatever the best is that this team can do, that's where we will go. It's just a matter of waiting and finding out what that exactly means. Do you want me to go ahead, since we're already talking about the first game on our picks, you want me to go ahead and share the screen and put the picks up there?
let's go for it.
Yeah, I'll just say too, just we are pretty young as well this year. So we're using a lot of young bucks in our system right now, considering what we had before. So Definitely a lot of room to grow for that's for sure.
Everybody can see that.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, well, as you can see, these are week 7 picks on the screen. First game, UGA hosting Mississippi State. The Lesser Bulldogs come to visit Athens. Um, we're favored by 33 and a half. So big, big number. And I'll be honest, I was this close to taking Mississippi State on this one, to be honest, because of that big number. Just I think we'll win. I just wasn't sure how big the number is going to be that we win by. And we're lately, especially, we're not really known for covering these large numbers against especially SEC teams. But
Yeah.
I think Mississippi State, if you get things rolling against them, I think they may just almost give up. And to cover that kind of number, we're going to have to also get some kind of non-offensive score, I think, too.
And
I th-
turnovers.
yeah, we're going to have to get a couple of turnovers, score on defense, whether it's a pick six or a fumble return or
Kickoff
whatever,
return.
or get a punt return for a touchdown or something to where it helps you steal a possession where you score points without the offense.
Yeah, and those were the type of scores we didn't get last week against Auburn that I thought we could get. And we'll definitely need that. I can definitely see this going uh that type of way though, and I think a shutout or a very, very low number given up is possible. So that's why I think ultimately I went this way, but I was very close as well because we just have not been covering
What my
taking Mississippi State.
what kind of score do you think we get to in this game? What do you think it'll be?
I'm gonna go with uh 49 to 10.
That's funny. I have it written down in front of me. I said 45-10.
So we both have them just barely covering. Matthew,
52-7.
I would like to see a 5-0 or a number starting with 5 on the board for
Well, see,
once.
one of the things that if you notice, we don't see very many games at all with that, and I think that plays has a lot to do with the new clock rules.
Hmm.
There's just not as many possessions in games anymore, not as many plays right now because the clock hardly ever stops.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're not going to get the ball as many times. And the only way you're going to score that many points if you score touchdowns every time you have the ball and you're so efficient, which we just said. That's been one of the, hiccups that we see with this year's team, or I don't know if hiccup's the right word, but we just are not as efficient on offense as what we're used to seeing out of the last couple of seasons. So
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult to get 40, 50 or more points in a standard college game these days if it doesn't go to overtime because it's just limited. The number of plays, the number of possessions that you're going to get is way less than what it was prior to these new time clock rules.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
Yeah.
as you can see, we're all in agreement. UGA it's got a big win tomorrow on tap. So, from our mouths to God's ears, let's hope that happens and we stomp them and cover. What's up?
I just want to say real quick, with this game, Georgia versus Mississippi State, it's going to be my wife Casey's first game ever that she's going to.
to be in person.
to be in person.
Nice. Well, I hope
So
Casey enjoys it tomorrow. I hope
And I
she
hope
gets
so
the
too.
I hope she gets the fever and enjoys herself and understands why we enjoy it so much.
Right. 100%.
All right, so that's right. You two are lovebirds are a little side note here. Matthew and Casey are coming up on their first wedding anniversary.
Yay. This is part of it. And I kind of surprised her, talked to my friend with this. So it's one of the surprises.
Cool. When is the anniversary? I know it's the 13th, but
Sunday.
Sunday is the actual day. Okay. And then moving right along, is everybody done talking about the Georgia game?
Yes, done.
All right. Then our next game is Texas versus Oklahoma. It's a SEC tilt this year for the first time ever. That just, for me, that's just
It's so
extremely
weird.
weird to say. But the Red River rivalry now is what they're calling it instead of the shootout because we can't have anything to, talk about guns and, the normal world these days. Um, but
Sadly.
Texas favored by 14 and a half over Oklahoma I think they play in Dallas, right? In the Cotton Bowl or whatever. Are they?
yeah,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Micah and Matthew both riding Texas, giving up the more than two touchdowns. I'm I'm going the other way in this one. I think Oklahoma's going to be playing them. I'll tell you this. The last several years, Oklahoma's given Texas everything they've wanted, except for one recent year. I mean, Texas pulled them out. I think it was like 49 to nothing. But in the last 10 years or so, I think Oklahoma has the edge on them. And this is a rivalry game. You know, anything can happen in rivalry games. And I don't know. I've been impressed with what Oklahoma has shown so far this season, even though they've been kind of a little handicapped with some injuries and stuff like that. They still are tough and gritty. And I can guarantee you they're going to be geeked up and ready to play this game. They always are against Texas, even when before this year when when they're part of the SEC. This is always a fun game to watch. And I mean, it's usually a close game, usually. So that's my thoughts on it. So that's the reason why I decided to take the points and take Oklahoma. Plus, if Oklahoma stays close enough, you two losers get an L and I get the W.
yeah. Did you
Ha
did you do that after we sent our picks in
No,
or before?
Mm-hmm.
no.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I was thinking from the get-go.
You
Mm-hmm.
thought you thought we were gonna go with Texas.
I didn't care what y'all went. I decided what to do on the games on my own.
All right. Well, here's
Mm-hmm.
here's why I think Texas covers. They're just gonna have too much on offense. They're gonna be too strong up front. They get Quinn Ewers back. He did not play very well early in the game in this game last season. So I think he's got something to prove. This is the team that has given him some trouble. Now his first time playing this game, he was awesome. So he's the last time he played him last year, he's got a bad taste in his mouth, and it kind of took it. It's the only blemish on their record until they got to the semifinal. So he's got two games on his mind. It's this one, and it's getting back to the semifinal and winning. So I think uh, I think Texas rolls. Oklahoma's not going to have enough on offense to keep up with them.
Okay. You made my
I
point
kind
for me, really.
of what? How?
Well, because you just said even last year, the only regular season game Texas lost was
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
And revenge
That's
is
my
a real
point.
thing.
Yeah, but this is a rivalry game. I mean, and Oklahoma's had the better side of it lately.
But
And I mean, a couple of things. What you were saying about Quinn, his first game back, right? You think he's going to be a little rusty at all?
I think they should stick with Arch Manning.
Oh, I think there may be a quicker hook this time because Arch has been playing pretty good. Now, granted,
they haven't played anybody.
yeah, it's who they played. The other part about that is I compare. You're saying Texas's offense is just so, firepower this, blah, 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 blah. Didn't we think Tennessee was that way before they played Oklahoma too?
Or
I thought
Arkansas.
I thought Tennessee was more so than Texas.
Okay, so Oklahoma almost beat Tennessee, and you're thinking Tennessee's offense was better than Texas's.
Well, we thought going into it. I think
That's what I'm.
we're finding out that, there are some chinks in the armor there. And maybe we do about Texas this week, but I don't know.
I
They're the
just my point about that is just shows to me that Oklahoma's defense, and you got to remember they have a defensive coach. Their head coach is a defensive coordinator by trade.
From Clemson.
He was the yeah Clemson. He was the mastermind when Clemson was winning national championships. He was a good part of the reason why is because of their
He
defenses
yeah,
that those years.
he was definitely the reason why
Now, granted,
Dabo has
they had two generational quarterbacks also. So, but their defense didn't give up a squat either. So, um, and he's carried that on.
that's all
So,
very true. And this
I just
could
think it
go
means it's
either
going to be
way.
a good game. Yeah. And I mean, if it can go either way, that's even more my point. Reason why I'm taking Oklahoma. I can see either team winning this game. So if I can pick Oklahoma and you give me a 2 touchdown lead, I'll take it.
I'm just banking on the better team winning.
I
You good,
mean
Matthew? What are your
for
thoughts?
me for me it's just yeah, Oklahoma has a really good or not really good, but they have a good defense and they have a defensive minded head coach. But at the same time, their season has been up and down. So it's just like, are we gonna see the good side of them, or are we gonna see the iffy side of them tomorrow? Because it all boils down to how you play the game. And um, now, granted, it is a 3:30 game, so they got a little time to figure things out. But I mean, I just think Texas has the edge, and they would cover the spread just because. I mean, who's gonna stop? What's that one receiver that they have? I can't remember his name. Or do they not have him anymore? They have a really fast wide receiver. I know that.
I can't remember. Is it Worthy?
Worthy's gone.
He
Worthy's
left. He was
gone.
there last year with the guy
Hmm.
that played at Georgia, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Worthy's on the Chiefs.
Gotcha.
So, like for example, for Oklahoma, when they played Houston, they won 16-12. Um, Tennessee, they lost 25-15. And then when they played Auburn, which I watched that game, they barely won 27-21 to an Auburn team like that. I know it's SEC, but at the same time, Auburn is in shambles as well.
Well, that was at
Eh,
Auburn too.
It was, but still, got to play the game first.
Well,
But
we saw what can happen at Auburn. Funky things happen in
yeah,
that
it's very,
stadium.
very weird. But like I said, it's just Oklahoma's been rocky the whole season. Who knows how their defense is gonna be. If their defense is not if their defense is not locked in, this is gonna be a 2 or 3 score
I hope you're right. I
loss
hope it
for
is a
them.
two score game. Then I win.
I said 2 or 3,
Yeah, 2 or 3. I
maybe
hope you're
even
right.
4,
I hope it's
probably
two.
4,
Then I win. I'm
probably
just
be
messing with you.
4.
So anyway, yeah, I think it's gonna be a good game regardless. It's always a fun game to watch, like I said. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Moving on, we got the next game on the slate here. Penn State favored by 4.5, traveling across the nation to visit the Trojans of Southern California. What y'all think on this? We are obviously all taking Penn State, the favorite in this game.
I'm just riding the Penn State train of them being undefeated. I mean, USC has not looked that good at all recently. So, and they just lost uh to a not so good team. So,
Yeah. I I'm just I'm so like off of USC. So I since they're playing Penn State, I'm not 100% with Penn State either. I don't know who they are and what they're good at so far this season, but they're undefeated. USC's not. USC looked awful, and I'll take Penn State. And James Franklin's a really good coach, so I have to give him that. They got something going for him. He knows what he's doing. So,
I would agree. He's a good coach, except in big games.
well,
I true.
this is not the Big Ten championship or Ohio State, so I think they take care of him.
Whatever big game, if he plays Michigan, he loses. If he plays Ohio State, he loses. Anytime he plays a good team, he loses. Now,
And it-
granted, the question is, does USC rise to the level of being quote unquote a good team?
The
Obviously, none of
only
us think so anymore. Um, you
Truly
know,
the only advantage that they have is it's at home, and
is
Penn
at
State's got
home.
to travel halfway across the state just to get to them. So,
they that's a full cross country track.
Yeah, it is.
hmm
And
one east to west.
and speaking of James Franklin, I think he it came out earlier in the week that he was complaining a little bit. He mentioned the fact that how difficult this travel was going to be on his team. So it makes me a little hesitant picking him because if your coach has that mindset, what are the players thinking? Um, you know, it just you have no control over who your schedule is really, who you're playing in a given season. Just whoever's in front of you, just go out and attack them and win the game. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like the complaining about it, but
So, but I mean, I agree. I think Penn State's got enough on offense and enough on defense to where they'll win by 7, 10 points or something like that, even though it's on the road and they have to travel and all that stuff. Um, who knows? We may all totally be wrong, and USC shows up and blows their doors off tomorrow. Um,
Now you jinxed it.
but I guess tomorrow we're Nittany Lion fans, right?
hmm
All three of us. And then, any other thoughts on that game, guys? Okay. Then moving back to an SEC tilt, we got Tennessee favored by 14 and a half, welcoming the Florida Gators to Knoxville. All of us agree on this one too. We're going with Big Orange.
This is the only time I'm
Excuse
going to
me.
say this, but
No, don't do it.
go Rocky Top.
Don't do it.
I
Uh,
won't go that far, but I can't root for Florida. So I also am not rooting for Tennessee. I really don't care if either team wins this game. I just want to be right. And
we
I
had to
think
pick somebody, right? We just had to pick
Yeah.
one of them.
we had to pick one and I want to be right, so I'm pulling for Tennessee, I guess. But yeah, Florida's just a freaking mess.
I just hope
So
they both beat the crap out of each other
So
yeah.
that we have an easier way.
because we still got to play both of these teams down the line. So,
I'm not worried about Florida. I would be more so Tennessee more than Florida.
I'm not worried about either team.
so,
I mean, I'm not either, but I'm just saying out of those two, I'd be more worried about Tennessee.
so,
Yes.
do we think Florida stands a chance at all in this game?
Not the way that they're doing this two quarterback play style crap. Like, it's not working, obviously. Like, what if one of these quarterbacks gets hot and you pull and bring the other quarterback in? Like, you're messing up these guys' flow and they can't really get anything going because you're doing this back and forth, back and forth. Like, it does not make any sense. Billy Napier is retarded.
Well, they've got a coach, the old ball coach that used to do that quite a bit. Steve Spurrier was well known for having multiple quarterbacks playing a lot.
Well, how long
So,
ago was that?
oh, I know, I'm just saying, but there is an old adage about football. If you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. So, um, that's the only reason you play two is you don't have one. And but what I'm a little hesitant about taking Tennessee with that big of a number, even though it's at home, is that Florida usually finds a way to beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
No matter and I'm talking straight up, they win these games even when they seem to be overmatched, even when that happens and people think on paper, oh, Tennessee's going to roll over. I mean, just talk to any Tennessee fan that you know. They'll tell you this is their booger bear game, Alabama and Florida. Of course,
Nah,
Alabama's their first, and anytime they can beat Alabama, they're, happier than, a pig in slop. Um, but Florida's right up there too. And part of the reason why is because they never beat those teams on a regular basis. Florida has their number. And I think part of that we may see some of that. So I think it could end up being a little closer than what we're thinking, but I'm taking the percentages to say I think Tennessee is just better this year, hopefully, and they're in a better place to where hopefully they score enough points and their defense is improved enough to where they don't let Florida get cheap points, and in the end that'll result in a three-score win basically.
This is the other thing to add to that, and this is all I really have. Tennessee's just better coached. They're going to be better. They're the better team all the way around. So, with Napier, like Matthew said, not knowing what the heck he wants to do or saying he has a plan and sticking to it, even though it's just, just feels very random and un unorthodox. So, yeah, I'll take Tennessee, who knows who they are and is well coached. Think
You know,
even if it is close, they'll pull away.
yeah, I just pulled up this stat. Right now, out of the last seven matchups, Florida has won six of them.
That's what I'm telling you.
So,
That's what I'm telling you. Florida wins this game more times than not. I think, and that goes back to the last 20 years, I think. I mean, I think Tennessee's only won a couple of them.
mhm.
I mean,
So
it is vastly one-sided in this rivalry game. Um, so Tennessee will be excising some demons if they can win against Florida. They should. Honestly, they should.
they should, with how Florida's playing, they should. But
But we've
we
had the
said that
same.
last week too with them playing Arkansas, and you see how that went. So,
Well, see, I compare it to Georgia playing against Florida in the 90s and early 2000s. Y'all remember how that was. Y'all were old enough towards the end of that where Florida
Tim
just had our
Tebow,
number, you know, and they won 8 out of 10 every decade of those two. Um, so it just sometimes it gets in your mind and it doesn't matter what the teams are. They just find a way to win the game. Hopefully that doesn't happen tomorrow.
hopefully not.
But all right. So the next game on paper could end up being the game of the week. And you know, you got Ohio State favored on the road by 3.5, going to play the Oregon Ducks.
I don't know how
Top
they're favored.
five, top five matchup.
Top three.
So we all see it going Oregon's way, taking the home dog in this. What are your thoughts?
I just don't know why Ohio State is favored, even though they are the higher seed.
But that's
My thing is like, how can I put this? It's a different atmosphere in Oregon compared to Ohio. So I think Ohio is going to be struggling to breathe, just like every team that goes into Oregon, because higher elevation and everything. Um, but I chose Oregon because I feel like they're on a roll, getting um, the inconsistent stuff out and finally figuring things out since it is the halfway point for most schools now or most colleges right now. So I give Oregon the edge.
I just think to kind of piggyback on that, Ohio State's probably favored in this game because of everybody just keeps talking about their roster, their roster, their roster. I mean, it's good. It's really good. But when have we seen them, be at their full potential? I don't think we have. And I guess to the flip side of what I'm saying is they could rise and show their full potential this week, but it's a cross country trip and you're talking about a home underdog and that kind of an atmosphere at night. We've seen teams go in there before, like USC, who were favored by more than this and just lose. So, I don't really have that much faith in Ohio State's quarterback. He's gonna have to make some plays and with his arm, not with his legs. And I don't think that he makes the right ones. And I think Dylan Gabriel and Oregon and that defense wins them the game.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with some of that, what you were saying there. Um, I think we learn a lot about Ohio State in this game. It's by far the toughest team they will have faced so far this year, if you ask in my opinion.
Yep.
And it's not an easy task to go into Oregon and win. beat them at their place. Now, on the flip side, Oregon hasn't played as well as what all of us thought they would have been earlier in this season. They've corrected some things and they seem to have gotten better. I think they've gotten a little healthier, if I'm not mistaken. But I think this is going to be one of the games where it's won in the trenches, even though you think Oregon and Ohio State high flying offenses. I think this game is going to be dictated by whose offensive line can protect the best and open holes for the running game, and whose defensive line can create havoc and turnovers and sacks and that sort of thing on the other. I think whoever wins that matchup against each other is going to go a long way to determining who's on the winning side when at the end of the game. And I just feel like Oregon probably has the better shot of doing that.
Yeah. Now, seeing y'all pick Oregon and Tennessee and Penn State like me, I'm wishing I would have picked one of these games differently. But
Hmm.
anyway,
Yeah, it seems like here lately, we're always matching each other on at least 3 games each week. I mean, shoot, I think one week recently we were all the same on what, 4 or 5 out of the 6 games. So, um, but
Me,
yeah,
no, me and you, Dad, were the same, all six, a
yeah,
couple
this
weeks
time I'm
ago.
talking about all 3 of us being the same
Oh,
on
okay.
every game.
Yeah.
This week we're the same on 4 out of the 6.
Yep.
So, um, the only difference is I'm picking Oklahoma in that one game, and Mike is picking LSU in this final game. So, Ole Miss, speaking of that, good segue going. Ole Miss heading to Death Valley to take on the Tigers of
Go
LSU.
Tigers.
Go Tigers, but you picked Ole Miss.
yeah,
I'm referencing the coach.
I
Okay.
know, I know what you're doing, but you said go
It's a
Tigers and you
funny,
pick Ole
it's a,
Miss.
it's a funny meme.
So
Okay.
anyway, Ole Miss favored by 3.5 in Death Valley. You don't see LSU being a home dog very often, especially a night game.
yeah. I was about to tell you that's a night game, so I want both of you to tell me why Ole Miss goes into Death Valley and wins at night, because almost nobody does if you're not named
All right,
Alabama.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you why. You ready? 3 words. LSU's defense sucks.
Yeah, and you don't think that they can't play up to their competition for a one night game with all the
LSU's defense sucks.
Okay, you got another reason why that?
LSU's defense sucks.
I actually do. I actually do. Um, the reason why I picked Ole Miss, yes, they have struggled in Death Valley and they haven't won there in a really, really long time. So the time is up. They're due.
They're due. Okay, good
They're
argument.
due.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
about to say.
But, but, but I feel like LSU is having a rocky season as well. Brian Kelly is just all over or is it Brian Kelly?
Hmm.
Yeah, Brian Kelly. Um he's not a horrible coach, but with him being from Notre Dame, you know, thinking he's the best coach and can take on anybody and everybody anywhere anytime. No, not even at home. No. You haven't created a good program there in my opinion. So I'm choosing Ole Miss to at least win by a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I hear all of that. I see that. I kind of did go back and forth on this game, but it's like some of the games we were talking about earlier with like Tennessee and Florida and you know Texas and Oklahoma. I LSU just has Ole Miss's number. So, I probably should have considered that with the Florida Tennessee game and picked Florida. And then I'm going LSU because it's like until Ole Miss proves year in and year out that they can beat LSU, why pick them?
All right, well, here's another thought for you on this game. Um, Earlier in the season, we saw LSU go to South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
When they played each other. South Carolina outplayed them that day.
Big time.
South Carolina should have won that game. I have a
Mm.
feeling if their starting quarterback didn't get hurt in that game, LSU comes back home with a loss from that
100%.
game. We just saw Ole Miss go to South Carolina last week.
And obliterate them.
And now, granted, I don't think, if I remember right, South Carolina's quarterback still isn't back. I don't think he played in that game, the starter. So
Mm-hmm.
they only scored 3 points against Ole Miss. Was it like 27-3 or something like that, if I remember right, the final score?
Thought it was 27-6, but I can check real quick.
Either way, Ole Miss, after their loss to Kentucky, they came back out next game against South Carolina, which South Carolina destroyed Kentucky too. And they showed some dramatic improvement. I think Ole Miss got their wake up call. They know they really can't afford to lose another game and have aspirations to go where they thought the season was headed before it started, right? I
Well,
mean, they were thinking SEC championship, possibly, definitely playoff team, and more than likely making a deep run and possibly national championship, depending on matchups. Well, a lot of that takes a big hit if they don't find a way to win this game tomorrow against LSU. They are the better team, in my opinion. Ole Miss is.
Mm.
Now, granted, some of what Micah was saying is right. Sometimes teams just have your number and they get in your head, and strange things happen. You end up almost making a self-fulfilling prophecy where you make mistakes that you don't normally make, and the other team ends up winning games they shouldn't.
and
Um,
to me, that's kind of indicative of some Lane Kiffin teams. I mean,
yeah.
go back and look at how it went at USC. Go back and look at Alabama on offense, even with Nick Saban as the head coach. He kind of got in his own head, called some weird calls on,
Well, see, to
and
me, they've had that game this season already against Kentucky. I was flabbergasted watching that Ole Miss Kentucky game.
For sure.
but
I couldn't believe what I was watching. Then they came out the next week against South Carolina and they played, it wasn't, you know, overly impressive offensively, but they took it to South Carolina and made them look bad.
I think that was more about South Carolina than it was Ole Miss, though.
Well, LSU's defense is a problem for that team. It has been the last couple of seasons. It's continuing this year. And if I'm not mistaken, I think their best defender is hurt now too.
Yeah, but I
Hmm.
mean, they weren't. It's not like they were stopping anybody before. I just think that LSU has the offense to keep up with Ole Miss.
I don't.
Who's better defensively though? Ole Miss's defense or LSU's defensive team?
We could say Ole Miss.
And I can see both offenses when they're humming. They're both very
Um,
similar. You know,
Mhm.
they both can put a lot of points on the board quickly when they're playing well.
it's just which
So,
defense
so
can
the
stop the
difference,
other.
yeah. So the difference in this game to me is which defense shows up, and to me, Ole Miss's defense has a better chance of showing up than I don't think LSU's defense has shown up in the last 3 years.
No.
So why is it going to show up Saturday tomorrow? That's the
Uh,
reason why I took Ole Miss in this game. I was on the fence, but I'll be honest, I was back and forth with this one too. Um, but I just think Ole Miss is a better team, and I think they're going to end up pulling out the win.
L
Now, granted, it has to
LS.
be more than a field goal win. Yeah, that's good for Ole Miss, but field goal win, Micah gets the W on the pick. So it's got to be a touchdown.
I'm just
Patty.
saying, there's been some weird stuff happen at night in Death Valley.
Oh, definitely,
So
definitely.
And that weird stuff is going to be Ole Miss winning.
okay.
That's all I got to say.
Well, I think this has the potential to be the best week this season.
All right.
Um, we we've really been just kind of waiting for a week like this, so I think it's here. I think a lot of people talk about next week, and yeah, there's some good games next week, but top to bottom, that's six really good games, and that's not all the good games tomorrow.
And next week is loaded though.
It's loaded
Hello,
with
Diddy.
top tier teams, so like, but this weekend has more good games. It may not be the top 10, but what is the top 10 right now? That it doesn't mean anything. It looks good, it's good for TV, it's good for promoting, but like, like there's more really good matchups this week, rivalry games, top 25 teams matching up. So you have the first time Ohio State ever goes to Oregon tomorrow. So
Maybe as a Big Ten matchup, but I think they played previously there.
maybe so, but this is the first time it's a Big Ten
All right. That's what I
regular
said.
season game. So
All right.
I don't know.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good day to be on the couch watching a lot of football games tomorrow.
And that's what we'll be doing.
You
Any,
couch potato.
hey,
Hey, that's what Saturdays are for, big dog.
Nah, I work.
Mm, good for you.
I'm sorry.
I know, me too. I wish I was a couch potato on Saturdays. uh,
But
but
I'm glad you're
yeah,
getting to go to the game tomorrow. So
Yeah,
that'll
have
be fun.
fun.
yeah, me
It should
too.
be a good one to see. Yeah, hopefully, we'll work on some things again. Hopefully, we'll be more consistent on offense. Start to show more consistency, more growth there, and truly overmatch the opponent because I think we can.
And we should. Like, we should cover that spread, but who knows what Kirby's gonna do?
Yeah, I think this week's the week. If it doesn't get rolling this week, like Dad said, we are what we are. So
Well, you know who we got next week.
So we gotta
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm not worried about it.
we got to dial in this week.
No, we got to dial in next week after dialing in this week.
It's one game at a time. It's every week. You got to give it your best. You got to be dialed in.
Yep.
Got to improve every game. So,
It'd be so nice to go to that Georgia Texas game. Oh my gosh. It'd be so nice. But
Yeah,
gotta
but
have
then
money.
again,
well, you
just
realize next year we have all these teams coming to Athens. It's the same schedule as just flip flop home and away. So next
Yeah.
season in Athens, we'll have Alabama, we'll have Texas, we'll have Ole Miss coming here to play home game. Next year, the home slate is as good as it's ever going to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
best it's ever been. That's gonna be amazing. I can't wait for that. I gotta get to one of those.
Oh,
That's
100%.
everybody else is saying the same thing, so I'm scared to see what the price of those tickets will be.
Better get
Exactly.
in touch with some season ticket holders.
Well, they ain't going to
Right.
give up those games. They've been waiting for those type of games to
Yeah.
come to Athens. So good luck getting them away from season ticket holders. You have to talk to some scalpers that are going to make some moolah those weekends.
Yeah.
Anyway, should
Well,
be another good Saturday. Look forward to it.
yeah,
That about wraps it up.
I enjoyed it tonight. I'm glad we were able to do it, even though, as everybody probably can tell, I'm not in my normal setting. I'm here with you, Dad. So this has been fun, even though we are not where we normally are. Matthew, I like that you finally got a background. So good job there.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, it's gonna be a great Saturday, so we're looking forward to it. Hopefully I can bounce back from a bad week for my picks last week again and start a new run back to the top. So
You haven't been out of the cellar yet, dude. What do you mean back to the top?
I'm working my way to the top. Right.
Yeah,
Y'all
those 1 in 5 weeks kill you.
yeah, well, y'all might have some coming your way, so
Yeah, maybe we weren't too much better last week.
well, all right,
Mm.
everybody. Y'all have a great night. Thank y'all for joining. Thank you, as always, for tuning in either now or in the future. We always appreciate the support. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, share with 5 of your friends, turn on those notifications so that you know when we come on, even if it's 2.5 hours late, whatever it was tonight. So thank y'all, and as always, go
Go
dogs.
dogs.
Go dogs.